Hello, everyone. Welcome to Chasing a Murder. We are on part 93 of Life Beyond the Grave, which is attached to the Lori Vallow case. Probably one of the most sad stories and actually shocking stories there is out there coming out of Idaho and as well as Arizona. Before we get started, make sure that you hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell if you would like notifications whenever we have new uploads. Don't forget, you can donate and help this channel keep going at Chasing a Murderer Patreon. I want to reach out and say thank you to those of you that have been very supportive of this channel. So we left off with the fact that Lori Vallow has deemed herself the goddess of the Church of the Firstborn. She has made up her mind that no sacrifice is too small or too big for the cause. She's even made podcasts with mentions that, or at least a few times, that the children must suffer before moving towards their new life. But during this time, most people surrounding Lori, well, they won't understand the intentions of these words, what they really mean. So she has several people following her around this time. So Melanie Gibb, Zulema, Christina, Nicole, even her niece Melanie and her brother Alex. She convinces them that they have a very important role to play. It will fulfill a prophecy tied to this Church of the Firstborn and for God Himself. And for Lori, it's important that they believe this. Lori uses her ranking next to God as leverage over this group of people. The reward is actually standing by the side of Chad and Lori. The temptations are to be this greater power. As we learned in the podcast before, higher authorities within this new godly society that they're planning to build. Now, there's something interesting that they don't talk about much about this story, which I feel is very important, and that is the fact that Lori and Chad see this grand temple not far from the property where Chad is living in Salem, Idaho. They won't really share this openly until a little bit later, but they'll tell a few of their closest friends first. At least that's what I've learned so far. Lori, in my opinion, has these dreams of building this beautiful temple day and night. And I have learned that I believe this is one of the most important factors driving her. And this is where she's needing these big lump sums of money to come into play with this group she's involved in. So at this time, Lori has been very busy and very focused on Charles' life insurance policy. And Charles was able, thankfully, to change the beneficiary of this insurance policy to his sister Kay Woodcock. While Lori is aware of this insurance policy, she's nowhere near Charles, so she doesn't know that he's changing the beneficiary and that he's able to complete that. She is a very impatient woman, and she grows more impatient daily with Chad, Charles, her children, or even her family. She wants anything and everything the way that she wants it here and right now. And what I've noticed is it seems that Lori has lost touch with her humanity and refers to people, especially in her life, as obstacles. Now, Chad is also referring to these same people using that word, obstacle. And to Chad, there'll be a few big obstacles, one of them being Charles and later on Brandon Boudreaux. And as we approach March 2019, Lori has been gone at least 1 month at this point. And somewhere around the beginning of March, Charles is able to get an email to Lori. And it's hard to understand why he went from, she's going crazy to trying to make reasons as to why he said these things, and also using JJ kind of like a bargaining chip. You see, JJ loves Lori. That's his mother. It's not his fault that he's been drugged into this crazy woman's life because Lori had fooled Charles, had fooled Kay, and everyone else for years. Charles is suffering, but he also knows that JJ misses his mother. That's true. But Charles, I think, misses her more and seems to throw his own life into the fire in order to get her back. He's going through a very confused time in his life, it seems. At one minute, he knows that this woman has destroyed him without a thought. But his love for her, well, that seems to be stronger. In the email that he sends to Lori, he actually blames the police for the psych eval that she was kind of forced to do. He also states that, on Friday, March 15, he will have all his stuff vacated from the house that they were living in. And that on, March 16th, she can move back in, which will be on a Saturday. He tells Lori that he'll continue to pay the bills and that he and Lori can work out a schedule with JJ. He tells her that he'll schedule a locksmith to come change the locks for her as well. He tells Lori that he needs to know that this is acceptable by Monday morning, March 11th. He writes, I'm unaware of your wants and needs because you have not contacted me in any way or responded to any of my efforts. If you have not contacted me, the only conclusion I can draw is that after 38 days, you and your family no longer want communication with JJ. This will be your choice. I'm going to take action and continue to take care of JJ because I am not getting any response from you. I have no other choice. You have taken away all of his family here. It makes us both sad, and I really hurt for him. You're his mother. He misses you. Please agree to see your son, Charles. And I know what a lot of you are thinking. If you're having to beg someone to be in your life like this, and she doesn't care whether you're starving or living or even okay, haven't checked in. Why would you want to forcefully push yourself into her life? She had threatened to kill him. She threatened many other things. Threatened to take his money, his truck, and which she did. So why wouldn't killing him be an option too? Will Smith has said it, love will make you do funny things. So Charles tried putting his foot down. He threatened her with a divorce. But none of these things seemed to matter to Lori. Not once has she tried to even check in on JJ. For a long time, Lori was struggling with what she wanted to do in her life versus her responsibilities in life, and that comes to taking care of her children. Charles has seen a sign that Lori didn't want to be a mother for a while now, but he looked past that. He was only hoping that this was a stage, but that was not the case. Lori's goddess status and believing in reincarnation has really taken over her thoughts, her ideas of what she wants out of the future. She was enjoying the thought that she had these powers, just like Chad Daybell, where they could teleport between Arizona and Hawaii, Arizona and Idaho. They were using these portals that he had put in their closet to receive revelation or to travel to other realms. And now she believed that she could get in contact with all the zombies in the world through this portal. Something you need to know about Lori is she was always big on giving people nicknames, including herself. She'll be known as Lolo. Even Charles, his demons will have nicknames. There will be so many names in this story that it'll become confusing. Just Lori Vallow alone has several, like Lolo, Lily, Elena, and that even her daughter will gain a demon eventually that takes over her body. That demon will be known as Hillary. Charles continues to reach out to Lori. He says that the emails, well, their purpose is to establish family connection. I'm going to put this one up here for you guys to read. But he basically, describes everything that him and Lori have been through since, let's say, the end of December, January, February, up until this point, and mid-March. See, Lori has been dancing for her lover boy, Chad Daybell. She's made several videos and sent them to Chad, and Chad has asked for more. In fact, Lori will actually change her houses around that she lives in, add mirrors to them so that she can see herself dancing. So Charles kind of addresses that, and then he also addresses the fact, of how she withdrew like $35,000 from their business account. It's a bit sad reading this letter because it seems that Charles is trying to take the blame for all the wrongdoings that happened in that time, and so that Lori will come back. It's really, really sad. But Charles isn't the only one falling for Lori's mess. Melanie Gibbs says she's not in a cult.
You said that it wasn't a group or a cult, but do you think it became that over time?
I guess it depends on what you believe those words mean. A lot of us don't understand what those words mean. I would say it's teachings that you have the basic tenets of the gospel of Jesus Christ that we do as Christians, right? And then you have this doctrine that comes in that's not affiliated with any Christianity that I've ever read of. And it's not doctrine that comes from Jesus Christ. It comes from the adversary. And so that comes in, and it's enticing because how many people do you hear even in the world that want to know about their future, right? Or they want to know their fortune or something like that. And so it's enticing. So you keep going more and more into it. And then you get to more information, and it gets you to ask questions that you shouldn't be asking. And then you learn these kind of things. And so you can call that what you want. I mean, I didn't see him forming any groups per se. Preparing people is not a cult. They're people, very nice people, that have an event they hold, and they have different speakers. He just happened to be one of them, and they had no idea that he had these belief systems, nor did he know anything, nor did they know anything about their Chad and Lori's relationship. They had no idea.
Yeah, so that was going on separate from the mainstream church and preparing of people. It was this little thing.
Yeah.
Would you say that you got sucked into it?
Yeah.
Or brainwashed?
I don't know if the brainwash word is, I would say sucked into it. I don't know if you would call it a brainwash or not.
You can't call it a brainwash when she was supporting it. That's simple. Lori didn't twist her arm and make her do all the things that she did. That includes helping her do things to Lori's husband, Charles Vallow. She mentions that preparing the people are not aware of a lot of these teachings. That's untrue. See, Michael James and Chad Daybell, they talk often about these things behind the scenes. In fact, Michael would admit that Chad Daybell's one of the reasons that he moved to Rexburg, the place where he needed to be prepared. Although Michael wouldn't stay there that long. There's a lot more to research on this, guys. There's a lot more to this story. Just putting this together with Lori just by itself and Chad, it's difficult to have time to do the rest of it. This story could be investigated for another 5 years. Just to mention this so that you have an idea, Jason Mao is speaking Friday and Saturday, March 1st through the 2nd at St. Joseph's Chapel of the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints. It's at a youth conference which hosts kids ages 14 to 18. So in March of 2019, Chad Daybell is searching the computer and trying to measure if his celestial sign and hers are compatible. Chad and Tammy Daybell, well, one of their kids, they're going on one of their missions and they are serving in Africa. As for Charles Vallow, he was once chasing Lori to serve divorce papers. By March 5th of 2019, Charles filed an order of dismissal in the divorce proceedings / custody case of JJ. And by March 6th of 2019, divorce proceedings are dismissed at Charles' request. Again, Charles decided he wanted to try to make marriage work. So during this time, we learned that Lori Vallow, she's taken Tylee. At one point, she's with her Uncle Alex or her aunt in Hawaii with Lori. And now they're actually talking about moving back to Houston, Texas to live with Charles. We have learned that Tylee was dealing with health issues off and on. She's seeing several specialists because of her stomach pains. Doctors are not able to figure out the root cause, though we've heard mention of the pancreas. Doctors are not able to, really say why this child is so sick. But if we look back to around 2007, they believe that this child is under a lot of stress, which is brought on by her mother. Lori Vallow actually told Melanie Gibb that Tylee had turned into a zombie when she was around 12 or 13 years of age. This is around the same time that she claimed that she started having difficult problems with Tylee. So there's something I wanted to share as well. Chad has several documents that are being uncovered. One of them was actually uncovered early on when this case first started by Justin Long. And it is mentioned as I See It. On AVOW, Chad Daybell is becoming quite confident and quite bold in his beliefs. He's not timid nor shy. He is confident and antagonistic. His claims to his fictitious books are now nonfiction for certain, and he explains how he has based his enemies and his allies in this book are books, and they are real people. And he's continuing to push Hector Sosa, not so much Julie Rowe. He tells his subscribers how he can sense the false prophets and the false Christ arise around them. And it's going to happen in the near future. He can see that there are people that are claiming to be Christians when they're not, and they're following a false god. Ironically, he calls them pretenders. And you can pick them out based off their testimonies or their wobbly testimonies. He is warning that the government is coming after Christians. After fulfilling his idea of what is to come of the future, he explains that his villains in his books, they're based on real people. It's also based on future events. Based on future events that he has been shown through his visions and revelation. After he gets through speaking at some of his events, he says that he's had people come up to him and ask him questions like, are these real enemies? And wouldn't you want to know who this enemy is? At least one of these enemies in his book that he talks about. It's Commander CIOPOV. It seems whoever this true villain is in his real life, he sees him as an arrogant jerk for who he truly is. And interestingly, this guy, this commander, was being controlled by Satan, and that there wasn't any light left in this guy. And they suggest that there are people who were active LDS members of the church are now no longer part of the church, who will be one of the main persecutors of people like him. He mentions, though, that there's a lot of horrible future scenes that he has seen that are not tied to his novels. And then he speaks on a vision that he's seen recently through a dream. And he hopes to stop whatever this is before it happens. Now, one person they're warning about is it's a middle-aged man working in a financial office in New Jersey. He said it was as if he could read this guy's mind. This person was an ex-Mormon, and they were making plans to harm the church. And he believed that it would be in a bad, devastating way in the near future. Then he claims that this guy that has this big idea to destroy this church, well, he just has this small idea tucked away in his brain at this time. But over time, circumstances could blossom into a horrible outcome. Chad continues to write that he believes that there's going to be tons of Christians burn up in flames throughout the southeast of the United States. That arsony will be the go-to method or the preferred method to take down believers of Jesus Christ. So Chad refers to this Gary being a very bitter, angry person. His wife divorces him, he's excommunicated, and he's hanging out in ex-Mormon chat rooms. He's making plans and using Google to print out extensive maps of the area he's interested in, which is supposedly New York and New Jersey. This guy was planning attacks with other gang members in other areas to burn down 20 churches. And the way that he talks about Gary as if his mindset is of Gary because he can understand how Gary feels. He says Gary would pay the gang leaders handsomely in cash. That way, no one could figure out what they were dealing or follow breadcrumbs. Gary and his friends would have people supplying them in different areas. And Chad calls this event the Night of Fire. He says, "Can this be stopped?" Chad says, "I hope so." The scary part about this is he has numbers. He's been thinking this out, that each team had 5 members. And how each team would arrive at a church in a black SUV. And he seems to be excited as he talks about how they were first attacked by, crashing in glass windows. They would even use blowtorches to start fires. Interestingly, he talks about people being shot and stabbed to eliminate witnesses. He also kind of predicts that there's going to be tectonic shifts after announcements at one of the LDS general conferences. Chad goes from talking about the fact that these are visions and how he has some ideas of what some of these changes might turn into or become, but he says he doesn't want to speculate too much. At the same breath, he says that he is a supporter of President Nelson, but this makes you wonder. So Hector says, I see these false prophets, these false people of Christ rising up in the near future. Chad says, yeah, I support those same thoughts. I see it too. Well, one thing Hector was right and certain of, him and that group of his friends, they're rising up in the near future, and they did. So between the fact that Lori's saying, there's no need to repent, and that Jesus Christ's atonement wasn't enough to pay for our sins, Chad's prediction of the future of other leaders standing up above the church leaders, and the church leaders basically being fine with that, because what their belief is they are translating or translated beings. And so they are godlike. which makes them above prophets. Now, something I want to mention, around this time, Julie says she gets sick. That she had a vision beforehand that she would get sick, and even has it recorded with her pal, Eric. So that's around 10 a.m. Now, just know that Julie Rowe's husband is a bishop at their church. The Spirit tells her that she needs to contact him in just a little bit to let him know that she's sick, that she needs to reschedule this little meeting where they're preparing to excommunicate Julie Rowe. According to Julie, she says she doesn't hear from them until a few days later. So while Julie Rowe and Chad Daybell, they're not so close anymore, as you can imagine, it probably has a lot to do with Lori Vallow. Chad has kept keeping Hector Sosa in the loop. He says that the Spirit is prompting him to release his slide deck before the conference. Interestingly, he does this through Dropbox. And Julie Rowe is really having a hard time around this time being threatened with excommunication. So much so that she even takes her podcast down for a period of time. And she speaks as she's got a group of people with her. So this spiritual people. She's got this union in the glory of God. But now Julie says she's in a session and that she had been sick for a few days when she gets a call from stake leaders. It's the president. She says at the time she couldn't get to the phone because she's in these sessions, but once she gets a break, she takes that time to call them back. He tells her that they didn't hear from her last night and that they have scheduled her for church court. Julie's not happy about this. She says it's a complete sham, and at one point, she's getting pretty heated. They rip away Julie's temple recommend. Then they tell her she's on probation. The district presidents contact Julie's husband. Her husband said that he will go with her to that meeting that they called for that night. So remember, guys, this is all starting to really heat up as Lori Vallow is now in Chad Daybell's life. So this is why Julie actually instructs people working with her to take down the books and the podcasts. And she is scheduled for this church court, they call it, April 7th of 2019. You can check out her podcast. I can't remember exactly which one it is right now. And it tells you more details on this. But she said the meeting started around 7 o'clock. We'll go ahead and cover it. It's not April 7th right now. And that this meeting went all right. And the true reason as to why she would take these podcasts and books down is not so much to appease the church, but to because the Spirit's kind of directed her to do so. Meanwhile, the gathering of Lori and her posse, that would be Christina, Melanie Gibb, Melanie Boudreau, Nicole Earl, Serena, Zalima, while they're meeting at Zalima's home. The castings are moving forward. Now, something you need to understand that when you're born, Lori believes that you have thousands of strings that are attached to your spirit. These strings are attached to you. And that when you have something devastating happen or an accident, those strings get clipped. And in an interview later on with police, Serena will share how this kind of works.
Yeah. On the castings, can you walk us through on how those happen?
Yes.
Or did she always direct them?
Yes.
Okay, can you walk us through on how those worked and happened?
Sure. So I've only seen her those 4 times. The weekend of March, when we were there for that girls' weekend, that was the first time we did. She explained the casting out thing and stuff. And she asked us each to, it's kind of like we got in a circle, and she asked each of us to be part of that prayer or say something to help cast out. And And so we each took a turn saying something like, and sometimes calling on elements, because we each have like different gifts. Just like you're really good at basketball and you might be really good at hockey, right? The same thing applies spiritually too. We can have different spiritual gifts. And so she asked, like, for me to be in charge of water and to use those elements and ask for water. And for me, that meant like using water, calling down water. God used water to help form this world, and calling down that water and using water to help like cleanse, because it's a very cleansing agent. There's a lot of power in water too. So basically, I thought we were just casting out, getting rid of those zombies or evil spirits, the people who are possessed, so that we could cleanse them out. And my specialty, or her ask of me, was to use that water element.
So this doesn't sound like any Christian casting anyways. I mean, they're talking about calling on to the elements to help them rid the world of zombies, fire, earth. They call on storms, lightning, and earthquakes. So let's continue listening.
Can I back up real quick then? So when you guys were in a circle, were you holding hands? Were you just shoulder to shoulder?
I don't think we were holding hands. From my memory, I think we were just, I can't even remember if we were standing or sitting. Just kind of in the casuals. I'm so sorry, I don't remember.
And was Lori in that circle, or was she somewhere else?
No, she was there.
Do you remember who was there?
Yes, I do. So Lori, and I don't remember the order, but Lori was there, Zulema was there, Melanie Gibb was there, Christina was there, Nicole was there, and myself. And I think that's it. Alright, that sounds right to me.
And then just kind of walk us through what you would say. Like if it got to your turn, what you would say to cast out these evil spirits.
Well, it's very similar to what we're taught in the Bible. So in the name of Jesus Christ, I ask for, and you can ask for things when you pray, I ask for the element of water to come, water in the heavens above and the earth beneath, that's in the Exodus, to come and cleanse. And I can't remember, you asked who we specifically targeted. I know she was very concerned about her husband, Charles is that, I think.
Yeah.
Charles, and that he was possessed. And I can't remember if it was that time or if it was later, but I think it might have been that time that we specifically talked about him. But her teaching to us was that even though he was possessed, it wasn't just a he problem. It was broader, way broader than that. It was like, we need to cleanse the earth, right? And cast out for the whole earth. So she specifically was worried about her husband. And I'm pretty sure at one point she was worried about her daughter, Tylee, too. And I can't remember if it was that moment or not. And I can't remember if she said it was dark or she was possessed, like her daughter. I think she said she was just dark, but her husband was possessed, from my memory.
So on the first one you guys did was for Charles, that you can remember.
Charles, but I think it was broader than that. From my memory, it wasn't just him. It might have been just him.
Okay.
I think he was definitely part of it.
Okay.
And I'm trying to remember if it was more than just him, too. Because that was her intent, is that we cleanse, like,
Everything.
right? And it was like, for her, it was like a state-by-state thing. So it was her husband to practice on. But that we were just practicing because he was already possessed. And then it needed to be, like, broader than that. It needed to be, like, state-by-state and then cleanse the whole world type thing. Yeah. We thought we were doing good. Like, we really didn't think, certainly didn't, like, this was just a spiritual thing. This was nothing more than that. And we thought we were trying to, like, help people and help, like, cleanse the evil out of him. And
when you guys were doing it, and Lori started it off, did she start it off with a blessing? Or did she end it with a blessing? Or how did that start and end?
What do you mean blessing? Like blessing each of us, or blessing
the casting, or whatever? Or did she just start off, okay, everyone let's get in our circle, you have this, and then did she start it off? Something like that.
Like, did she bless us to start that thing?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. I think she just started.
Okay.
Remember, I was only there once though, so I only did it once, and I'm trying to remember.
So you were there one time physically.
Yeah.
Did you ever do any castings over the phone?
Yeah.
With them? Okay. Was that multiple castings or just a few?
I think it was just one other.
Okay.
And then I was
who
kicked out. You know that, right?
Yeah, and we'll get to casting over the phone.
That was general.
Or
That was
not specific.
That was like a state thing.
Okay. Do you know who was on the phone when you did that?
Everybody that I mentioned already, plus I think Molly Boudreaux was there.
Okay.
Who I had never met until I moved here, and I only met her once briefly, so.
Okay. And so you just did the two castings?
There might have been a third, I'm trying to remember, but yeah.
Okay, guys, we've reached our end here. We will try to cover more on this, but that's just insane because now you hear her saying they're doing these castings even over the phone because they're not going to be able to meet up. A lot of these people are kind of from all over the place. And Lori believes that she's able to cast out these dark demons all over the country, eventually from all over the world. So this tells you just how deep and how insane Lori, I mean, this is over a quick period of time as well. I mean, she just met this guy at the end of October, started hanging out with him at the mid-November of 2018, yes. So Lori has gone from just a mom that hung out at the temple to doing podcasts and being a goddess, a leader of the firstborn, a translated being, head over handling or dealing with the zombies around the world. She's able to start saying who is possessed. So their lives on this earth, well, they're being decided by her. And she's just got so much going on in that 4-month period. I mean, she's destroyed her own life, now destroying Chad Daybell, their family's life. She's working on destroying Melanie Boudreaux's life, her brother, Alex Cox. She's destroyed her children's lives. I do believe that she had something to do with Julie's problems that she's having right now, both her and Chad Daybell. Anyways, it's just completely insane. So anyways, I love you guys. Don't forget to check out the stories of our missing girls. Share their faces on one of your social media feeds. I want to say thank you for your support. And don't forget, you can donate to Patreon if you want to help me, keep this channel going. And I'm sending my love out to, the victims of this case. It's just so sad. We're getting there, guys. It's mostly audio these days, but we're getting there. All right, guys, I'll see you guys soon.